7,000 Dow, a failed U.S. foreign policy, and a return to the days of the Great Depression. One of the leading trends forecasters in the country says those calamities and more could be in store in the days ahead. We'll hear his cautionary tale. A visit with Gerald Celente of the Trends Research Institute this Sunday morning at 8:30. A new world war, a 7,000 Dow, a failed U.S. foreign policy, and a return to the days of the Great Depression. Our program today may not be comfortable to watch or think about, but one of the leading trends forecasters in the country says those calamities and more could be in store in the days ahead. We'll hear his cautionary tale today on Sunday morning.
Now, from Channel 6, the most watched news station in the capital region. This is Sunday Morning with Liz Bishop.
Good morning. For 22 years now, the Trends Research Institute has been studying current events to predict future trends. It's safe to say that never has the forecast been so dire. The latest issue of the Trends Journal warns readers on page 1 that the war on terror will not be won, the economy will not rebound, and geopolitical conditions will worsen. Summer issue 2002 calls itself a wake-up call, challenging the reader to disagree if he or she can do so without bias or self-interest. The Great Depression could once again become a reality if Trends forecaster Gerald Celente is on target. He says 2002 is shaping up to look a lot like 1932. According to his analysis, another significant terror attack on our soil and an economy already weakened by recession and then devastated by September 11th will plummet. Celente is warning of a 7,000 Dow as everyone from Walmart to the mom and pops react to a fading economy, slowed spending, and lost jobs. Our guest today is internationally known trends forecaster Gerald Celente. And Gerald, thanks so much for being with us. Certainly, I don't think I've overstated it to say that I have never seen you make such dire predictions for our future.
No, I haven't. And something really important is going on, and this is a wake-up call for people to look at the facts and understand that all is not well, and there's trouble on the horizon. And if we don't take smart steps and wise maneuvers, the ship of state, in fact, the entire nation, may go up in flames, and it's going to be rough sledding.
Let's take this apart then. We'll start with the wake-up call. What are we waking up to? Put in place the scenario that we find ourselves in right now.
Well, first of all, we're saying that 2002 looks a lot like 1932. Look at the facts. 1932 trade wars. All of a sudden, we have trade wars in front of us. The United States put tariffs on steel at 30%, lumber from Canada 30%, agricultural bailout $200 billion for agri-industry, airline industry $15 billion. The list goes on. The rest of the world is saying, United States, you're talking about free trade and you're doing this? Look what's going on with India and Pakistan. That could be 1930s all over again. Just change the names, go back then to Japan and China. Global instability. God forbid these people start nuking each other. Then there's really going to be big problems. Look what's going on in the Middle East. Does anybody really think that this problem is going to be solved? How many times do I have to hear there's a peace process underway? What a load of baloney. Stop it. Let's wake up and get the facts down and get real. This isn't going to end. There's going to be more bloodshed, and it's not going to be localized. These people are saying our foreign policy has nothing to do with terror attacks. They're out of their minds. They're talking to us like we're children. Look what's going on. Go from Mexico to Argentina. While the stupid news, this junk news, is talking about Robert Blake and other moronic things, forest fires, there's revolution taking place in Argentina. There's a coup attempt in Venezuela. There's going to be a civil war there. Brazil, the real, the currency has crashed. Uruguay, it used to be called the Switzerland of South America for its banking system. That's collapsed. Look at the United States currency. Look what it's doing against the euro. Our trade deficit. Do you know the United States has to take in $1.5 billion a day from foreign investors just to keep this country afloat? And who wants to invest in this scandal-ridden stock market? I could go down the list one place after another. The hot spots are real. The parallels are real. We're in trouble.
All right. How much of this is tied into what happened on September 11th? I mean, should we have known, A, that was going to happen, and should we have seen that if, in fact, something like that did happen, this would be the result?
Sure. We could see it happen. I wrote in Trends 2000, how many years ago I did on this show, 1995, about Crusades 2000 and terrorism, the genie uncorked. We've talked about it over and over. Also, the economy was beginning to decline before 9/11. That's a fact. So we know that. But as far as foreign policy goes, it's ridiculous to believe that foreign policy is not directly affected into terrorism. This isn't about people looking at the United States and saying, oh, what a wonderful place, most of you, we think we're going to bomb you. It has to do with foreign policy. If there's going to be a war, that's where the war should take place.
How much of this do you blame on the Bush administration?
I blame it on the whole system. I'm a political atheist. I mean, you look at the moral breakdown of the country, you could go back to the Clinton years. Remember when character didn't count, the economy was doing fine? That's what the people said. That's what the polls said. The Bush administration, under the Clinton administration, they were bombing Iraq on a weekly basis for 8 years. Most people don't know that. Take a look at the Democrats and the Republicans now. They both want to go bomb Iraq. They're saying, we're going to get rid of Saddam Hussein. Well, great. You want to do that. Knock yourself out. But understand, people don't like to get killed or bombed, and they want to get even. So that's the implications that nobody's looking at with all of this bravado being talked about.
I have read in your Trends Journal in years past or issues past your view that that at some point America would either have to give up its role as the world policeman or pay a price. Do you believe that's so
Oh,
today?
absolutely. Yeah, that's
basically what you're saying about Iraq, that this is, at some point, we have to stop.
Exactly, and this is what I wrote about in Trends 2000. I said, and remember, I wrote this in 1995, and you're waking up in the new year, and it's the new millennium, and I wrote that terrorism was pandemic, and I said, until the United States gives up taking sides in foreign internal conflicts, policing the world and using its powers to, quote, spread democracy and, quote, open markets, and to protect the special interests in the name of national interests, the terrorism trend will continue. I wrote that in 1995, knowing that in the year 2000, 2001, we would be in this situation.
The devil's advocate would probably say, though, if not us, who?
Look, we don't make policy. All we're saying is, for every action, there's a reaction. So understand that if you want to put your nose in somebody else's problems and you think you could straighten it out, the side that you're against wants to get even with you.
All right, so let's say that we decide that we will no longer be the world's policeman. That's the action. What's the reaction worldwide?
Well, the reaction won't be as volatile as the action. Take a look at the rest of the countries in the world that aren't getting attacked by terrorism. Go to France. France had only had terrorism problems when they were messing with Algeria. People in Algeria didn't like being killed by the French, so they went and got even. So it's not like the whole world is under attack.
What happens with the Middle East then? Another situation where it seems if somehow we are not involved, even with us involved, it's a situation that is so volatile, so violent. What happens if we...
Well, here's what I wrote about the Middle East in the Trends Journal. The battles won't end until either all the Palestinians are controlled, killed, or removed from the Holy Land, Israel withdraws to 1967 borders as per the Saudi Egyptians' proposal, or the second coming comes and a supreme being makes everything nice for a while. None of these events are likely to occur. The battlefield has already spread beyond its regional borders and will continue to wreak havoc throughout the region and in countries that take sides in this no-win war.
Okay, and if in fact past performance has led you to predict this trend, what is it that you have seen that has led you to feel this way?
When we put the pieces together, if you go back just a couple of months ago to January, there was a lot of bravado how we were going to rid the world of terror and evil. You don't hear that anymore. Now we're getting these, remember the 4th of July? We were going to get blown up. They're warning us on a continuing basis that terrorism is right around the corner. So these are...
Do you think that's a hedge, though? I think a lot of people think it's just a hedge.
Well, it's a smart hedge to make, because if you get involved like the United States is getting involved in Mideast policy, I think the odds are better than even that somebody's going to get even with you. So that's what's bringing us to these conclusions. Then there's the economic front. And again, you know, when we were saying that, we call this casino fever back in 1998. In October of 99, in the Trends Journal, we said the Dow would collapse by the NASDAQ would begin to unravel by the second quarter of 2000. These are foreseeable events, but we will call gloom and doomers. The underlying, by the way, what's really the unraveling factor right now as they said back in the Clinton days, it's the economy's stupid. When the economies are strong, you tend to forget problems and overlook differences. But now the economies are really coming under a lot of pressure worldwide. Another factor that I didn't mention about World War III.
Okay, you're going to have to take a break there because hold that thought and we will pick up right where we left off in just a minute. We have to take a break. And welcome back. I mean, you're poor, you're tired, you're huddled masses yearning to be free. How ironic that the Statue of Liberty, considered to be a potential target of terrorists, would in our post-September 11th world no longer be as welcoming to outsiders. That's what trends forecaster Gerald Celente is predicting in his latest Trends Journal. He believes the anti-immigration sentiment that has overtaken Europe and Australia will sweep across our country. And Gerald Celente is our guest today to talk more about just what your view is of how America is going to change its policy on immigration.
America is going to change its policy, and all you have to do is look what's going on in the rest of the world. As you mentioned, with Australia and Europe, all of a sudden, the unwelcome signs are going up. The same thing is going to happen in America. We have, south of the border, there's a severe recession, almost a depression in Mexico. And that stems from Mexico all the way down to Argentina. These people are going to be looking for jobs. According to the World Bank, hardly a left-wing institution, half the world's people are living on $2 a day. You think they're going to try to get into another country to make some money? And that's what the problem is right now. When the economies are strong, immigrants are welcome for their cheap labor pool. But now that the economies are weakening all over the world, they're trying to push the immigrants out. A similar situation that happened right after the crash of 1929. They started enforcing strong immigration laws that had been made earlier. And that's the other issue of the New World War. We had a stock market crash. These clowns, these hucksters on television, you know, the ones in the three-piece suits that call themselves brokers with the white collars and the blue shirts. Yeah, they're telling us it's a correction. Baloney, it's a correction. The NASDAQ has crashed, what, 75%? The NASDAQ is the Dow of the 1920s. So following the 1920s, we had all this dislocation, trade wars, immigration policies, nationalism, like you're seeing now. And it's the same scenario is building itself. We are on the brink of a new world war.
A lot of follow-up questions, and let's start with one that seems probably the least important, at least in terms, except for a selfish reason. What if you were a stockholder right now, what would you do?
I'd have a lot of sleepless nights.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's not going to get better. You know, I love it. They used to call those things a profits recession. Yeah, aren't they all? Of course they are. You can't make money in a global economy. That's why trade barriers are going up. You're there, you can export product from anywhere around the world for slave labor making this stuff. So that's why you can't make money in this economy. Now we're finding out that all these corporations are cooking the books. I used to think they used to use this term when they fired an executive, like the woman from Mattel or others, for doing a lousy job, and they give them these multi-million dollar, $40 million golden parachutes. These aren't golden parachutes. You know what that was? In the Bronx, we call that hush money. They've been cooking the books. They've been lying to the people. These are high crimes and misdemeanors. Boy, you get caught robbing a 7-Eleven 3 times, we're going to lock you up. 3 times you're out. But you could rob the public of billions and trillions of dollars, throw people into poverty, end their retirement programs, and what do? They get on television and say, we're going to get tough with these people. This is the crime of America.
Do you see this as just the tip of the iceberg?
It's the tip of the iceberg. That's why there's no recovery in sight. There's not going to be an economic recovery. People should understand that. Probably not for a long period of time. Look, the only thing that got the United States out of the Great Depression was the Great World War. But this time it's different.
Okay, it has to be different. I mean, what does a Great Depression, in your view, in the year 2002 look like, if in fact that's where we're heading?
The Great Depression looks like a plantation economy. People will still be working. We're still going to still be living and buying things. But we're not going to be making much money. We're not going to have many benefits. It's going to cost us more and more for the simple things of life. The commodities will still be very cheap, like it was back in the Depression. You could buy food and that kind of thing. But the services, the rents, those kind of things are going to be more expensive. There'll be relatively high employment, but very low wages. And remember...
Will there still be the wealth in this country that there is today? I mean, there is great wealth in this country,
Yeah,
and by a small percentage, perhaps.
exactly, by a small percentage. So what does it count for? It's like the old days. But the noblemen have changed. Now they're the kings and queens of commerce. It's the same, but it's only different in that they changed the titles. So that's what we're looking forward to. It's not a very pretty picture. There's going to be also a new political party in this country, and it's going to be, as a lack of a better word, but I call it progressive libertarian. Progressive in terms of social needs, health, education, that type of thing, in the environment, and libertarian in the sense of, let's stay out of other people's problems. We have a lot right here. And libertarian in the sense of the government getting out of people's lives, as they have already raped from us our First, Fourth, Fifth, and Sixth Amendment rights since 9/11 without hardly a murmur from the press.
When you talk about a World War III, how do you envision that? I mean, you've always taught, I mean, just in terms of physically or practically, what happens?
It's guerrilla warfare with weapons of mass destruction. When I wrote Trends 2000 back in 1995, I front-loaded the book with the fall of the Soviet Empire and all of the weapons of mass destruction that were now available on the black markets throughout the world. And I listed AP stories, Reuters stories, press stories of all these little incidents that were buried on the back pages of foreign papers and even some of our papers. It's not going to be navies and air forces fighting against each other. It's going to be, oh, look, we have a nuke in San Diego, a suitcase-sized nuke in Chicago, one in Washington. We better start talking. I remember writing in the Trends Journal in 1998, New Millennium Warfare. At that time, they found 100 suitcase-sized nuclear weapons that they couldn't find from the former Soviet Union. What do you mean they couldn't find them?
And your supposition is that
if it's
we will find them the hard way.
Hopefully not, but if foreign policy continues along the course that it's going, we probably will.
We're going to take a break here, and when we come back, it seems to me that there is a great deal of doom and gloom in what you're predicting here. I'm wondering if you have a solution or if you have an alternative. I'll ask you that question when we come back, and I know you want to stick around to hear his answer. We'll be right back. And welcome back. We've been looking at a potentially bleak future through the eyes of trends forecaster Gerald Celente, the author of a number of books, Trends 2000, another book, What Zizzy Gave Honey Boy, which we've talked about before. And basically the bottom line in that book, which would sort of combine some personal experiences with your aunt and also tied it into trends, was that we should become somewhat of a kinder, gentler nation or pay the price. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, that's a fair assessment.
And I bring that up because I think that probably ties into what I promised you would talk about, which is what is the solution to the problems that you see out there? Let's just take some time and discuss, if you can, based on our past performance, on our present way of life. What is the answer to this, Gerald?
Well, first of all, I'm not a gloom and doomer. It's like going to a doctor and having something wrong with you. And the doctor's your friend. He's not a gloom and doomer.
Yeah.
He's giving you the information, and you can do with it what you want. And
what would you like to see?
What has to happen
the government
is,
or?
Well, first of all, the people have to get more in touch. They're so far out of it, they don't know what's going on, and they buy into sound bites. Anytime they hear anything on the news, they become instant experts on things they don't know what they're talking about. And that's one of the key things. But people are working themselves to death. They have no time to read and listen. That's first of all. Second is to understand the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you, or in your facsimile of that. And people really have to start understanding that if we have a life where we're living in power, fear, hate, and control, that's our future. But if we think in terms of love, compassion, generosity, kindness, and dignity, then that's the kind of future we will have.
That is pretty abstract, however.
Well, the other
what's
is
the
abstract.
practical? I mean, what's the practical?
Well, all right, you want to bomb Iraq. Let's take it from that one. Go, knock yourself out. You want to do it? You give me all the reasons you want. I say, hey, listen, there's such a thing as karmic justice, I believe. If you do that, then you're going to pay a penalty. If you're going to do things for special interests and self-interests rather than a higher interest, if you're going to do things for hypocritical purposes, then you're going to pay the price. And I think that's what we have to start looking at. I hear it over and over. The business of America is business. Well, guess what? If that's what you want, then the hell with the people, because we don't count if the business of America is business. It has to change. And if I say that, am I communistic, socialistic, or am I a person that wants to live a high quality of life? And I don't think that the business of America is business. I think the business of America is the voice of the people. But we've lost that.
Let me ask you this, Gerald. If there were another terrorist attack, and a lot of what you have predicted here is predicated upon what you see as a very real possibility of that happening, do you think it's inevitable?
I think it is, if foreign policy continues on the trend line that it's on.
All right, let's say it happens.
If it happens, we go automatic right into depression. This country will close right up. Look, they can't, with all this huff and bluff, they can't still stop, what, 20% of the people going through these motion detectors at the airports. They're still sneaking in things according to the government when they do tests. How are they going to stop anything? We have thousands of miles of borders. If there's a terrorist attack on this country, already our reputation for a capitalistic system built on fair and open markets and a free system has been tarnished around the world. The Europeans are laughing at us. I mean, they're not ones to talk themselves, but they're not the ones also saying, listen to us, do things our way, and then finding out that America's cooking the books. So if we have another terrorist attack, remember, we need foreign investment in this country to keep it going. This place closes down.
Okay, say you're sitting out there right now and you're listening to Gerald Celente and you're buying into everything you're saying. What is it that you want that viewer right now to do? I mean, other than that abstract of being, you know,
not to be an activist. I don't think it's abstract. The other thing is buy gold. 10% of your portfolio put in gold. Think in terms of survival, because nobody could tell what's going to happen. I can't say what's going to happen. Nobody knows. So think in terms of survival. Protect yourself, protect your family, and also in terms of get out of debt. Don't buy any more garbage. These politicians that are telling you to go out and shop to keep the economy going, these people are out of their minds. It's
what
a moronic
happens
statement.
if America doesn't
It's
spend?
okay to retract in a sensible and smart way. We readjust the money, put it into other things, like building healthier bodies, minds, souls, and spirits, putting infrastructure for bicycle paths, parks, other quality of life things that don't have to do with building bigger buildings and faster chips.
We have to take a break. We'll be right back. This is a man we could talk to for a long time. Unfortunately, we're out of time for today. Thank you so much for being with us today. We want to thank you for watching. Also, we want to remind you or point out that if you'd like to learn more about the Trends Journal, you can contact